I'm Aniello Piro, and the Denver Broncos offense is in a world of suck right now.
I'm Cody Roark. David Goggins says, who's going to carry the boat? The Broncos defense says that they will.
And I'm Nick Ferguson, and I guess what we saw tonight would be significant to an episode of Benny Hill. Interesting.
We'll break it all down on tonight's or this morning's Locked On Broncos squad show.
From the South Stands, it's the Broncos Squad. Everything Denver Broncos every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Mile High City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up and squad up. The Broncos Squad Show starts now.
It is your Locked On Broncos squad show right here on your Locked On Broncos YouTube channel. Do us a favor, folks. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode. And everyone on the audio feed, you can come watch us on YouTube as well. So come on over. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, and Nick Ferguson here breaking down a win. A win is a win, gentlemen. It is a 10-7 win for the Denver Broncos as they take down the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football. Short week, but the things that you and I discussed, like Nick, you, and Cody all talked about it in the press box today leading up to the game. Like this was going to be, style points kind of mattered, I felt like, in this game. And unfortunately for the Broncos, there was not many style points. We'll start with you, Nick, your initial thoughts.
Woo! Yeah, it was kind of a episode of Benny Hill. And there were so many fumbles, tweaks, and so many things that I can't really put into words to describe what it was that I actually saw. It was almost like watching a baby giraffe born for the first time, trying to stand on their own 2 feet. That's how bad it was tonight. Now, you know what? I mean, I expected more from the Broncos today because I went on record as saying, hey, the Broncos, this is going to be a get-right game for them. We're talking about 45 points. Man, boy, I should have took the under on that one. But highly disappointing in what I saw tonight. How about you guys?
Yeah, and, it's strange, right? Because they're 8-2. They're on a 7-game win streak, and it doesn't feel like that right now just because of the way that the offense is playing. And, Cody, you're a defensive guy, with your experience playing football and whatnot. I mean, the defense is absolutely, as you alluded to, the David Goggins line. Who's going to carry the boats? Right now, it is the Denver Broncos defense.
They're carrying the boats. I mean, they're doing overtime there. I mean, they're going back. They're lapping the offense in terms of carrying the boats to where they need to be. Nick knows this, having played on a really great defense. I know this. I've played on really great defenses. At some point, and I've played on great defenses where we didn't have the best offense, right? At some point, that's going to start to boil over. And I don't think it's gotten there yet, but there was a little bit more of a vibe in the locker room where, offensive guys were saying we have to play better. J.K. Dobbins, I felt like, had probably the best answer out of everybody, saying that, we this is not what we should play like. This is not what fans expect us to play like. And then you got defensive guys that said, it's working right now, but if we get to the postseason, we can't keep playing this way. And Denver is on track to make it to the postseason, but they can't play like this. This is going to sink them very, very early. They would be one and done if they play like this on the offensive side of the ball and special teams. What blows my mind about this, gentlemen, is the fact that this Broncos defense was literally handed the worst starting field position throughout the entire game. They gave up 1 touchdown, but then they tightened that grip a little bit. They overcame so much in tonight's win, which, look, 8-2 is great. Best record in the NFL, great. But it's not sustainable if this team is going to reach their goals of winning a Super Bowl or even winning a playoff game. This isn't it.
Yeah, I mean, they play Buffalo in the playoffs. They play Kansas City in the playoffs. Heck, they play Indianapolis or Pittsburgh. I ain't picking the Broncos. And look, I'm just not being a homer right now. It's just like the offense is absolutely abysmal. And the punting
Cowboys fan.
Well, don't out me like that, brother. You know how I feel about that organization and that team. I could do 7,000 eons worth of shows on that organization. But because of that, I feel like I could be a little bit more objective about it. And, it feels like the Broncos right now, I think we talked about it a bit in the last show. Like, I don't think they are what their record says they are. And I know Sean Payton got a little chippy with a reporter there after the game who was, kind of feeding into that dynamic a little bit. But there are some real problems, and I think evident, and we'll dive into this much later on in the program. I looked ahead. The Broncos are 3.5-point home underdogs for when they take on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the look-ahead line. So,
yeah. It's Andy Reid coming off the bye week. Look, Denver gets a mini bye, but Nick, you're a former player. You've been part of bye weeks. How good is a bye week for a team at this juncture of the season? And sometimes can it lead you into like maybe falling into a trap? It's like, hey, we haven't played for a week. Is there any rust associated with that? Like, what is your thought on playing a team that's coming off their bye week?
Well, there's two schools of thought. In this case, let's talk about what the Broncos are right now. They need to get away from football just a little, but you worry about whatever momentum that they've built up at this point, them possibly losing it. I mean, you're talking about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and we all know the data, the statistics say that, after a bye week, Kansas City typically plays pretty well. And then watching the Broncos not really do well in the first three quarters, and here it is again in the fourth quarter where everyone was like, hey, wait till the fourth quarter. That's when they're going to turn it on. And then the faucet never came on. So you have to wonder, what this team is going to be like when they come off this bye week, because this is going to play in their heads. They're going to say offensively, we did not really show what we truly think we are on Thursday Night Football in front of the world. And the defense is saying, you know what? We balling out every single week. So right now, Cody, I know everyone is saying the right things inside the locker room, but I've been here before. I've seen this movie. It's going to get to a point where, as they say, pressure bursts pipes, and someone on defense, they're going to do exactly what Chase Brown did with the Cincinnati Bengals when he called out the defense. Someone on the defense is going to say, to hell with this, and they're going to call out the offense, and they're not going to give a damn about the rat that's going to come from Sean Payton, because what can he really actually say?
Yeah, it's interesting because they're winning, right? Like, I think you would have seen those comments maybe surface a little bit, or that frustration maybe come out a little bit more if they were losing these games. But it's so weird that we're talking negatively or down on a team that currently has the best record in the NFL, right? But it's just, it feels a bit 2022 Vikings-esque, right? That team that was led by Case Keenum with a good defense, and they fell apart. In the NFC Championship game, they obviously had the Mile High Miracle, what do they call it? Not Mile High Miracle. I forget what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about.
Minneapolis Miracle.
There you go.
Yeah,
Minneapolis
2017.
Miracle. 2017. Sorry, I don't know where my head's at.
You're old, brother.
Brother, I'm like 5 years younger than you. I don't want to hear it. No, but point being, like, I think it's really interesting, the reality of the situation with the Broncos with regards to their record, but the emotions that go along with that, Cody, because I don't think anyone in Broncos country, I see we got a comment here, a lot of teams would love to have 8 wins right now. In fact, every team would. I agree with that, but I don't 100%. Think anyone right now is confident in the Denver Broncos big picture-wise this season.
I mean, they certainly didn't help the perspective, them playing on the national stage the way that they did here on Thursday night. Granted, look, it's a short week. Okay, that's fine, but we've seen teams piece together. We've seen a Broncos team last year when they had to play the New Orleans Saints on Thursday night. They put together a collective performance on offense, defense, and special teams on a road game here. The thing that I'm looking at with this Broncos team here is they're getting consistency from their defense. I think the identity of this team is rooted in the defense. They are the glue that is holding everything together. What is it? You have a meme, there's a water leak, and it's like the Gorilla Glue or the Gorilla Tape. They're smacking it on. That's the Broncos defense right now. And this offense hasn't even played up to the level I think we all know that they can. They have personnel, but there are things and little nuances that we're going to get into, obviously, as the show goes about here tonight, that are going to talk about some of those, what I call warts on the offensive side of the ball. And there's a lot of dirty hands on that operation. It's easy to blame Bo, but I know all those little acronym bros and with all their little charts and the data graphs, they're going through and they're saying, oh yeah, this is going to be fun for Monday's conversation. But the reality is simple. The Broncos offense, they make things too complicated for themselves. And in the same breath, they're putting the defense in a tough spot. But luckily the defense, they're answering the call.
So let me ask you guys this question, because what we're looking at is a great defense and a sputtering offense. So if I'm going to give you guys two teams, and you tell me whether you feel the Broncos are more like Team A or more like Team B. Here it is. So the Baltimore Ravens with Trent Dilfer at the quarterback, or Brad Johnson at quarterback with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Which one would you say at this point in the season that the Broncos are leaning more towards? Now, both of those teams that I gave you, they both went to the Super Bowl and they won the Super Bowl. So which one?
That's tough.
Great question. That's a great question.
I feel like it's Tampa Bay. I feel like it's a little Tampa Bay-esque, in my field there. But
because like Warren
in
Sapp on
today's
the
game, it's
defensive
so
line.
hard. Like, think about this. Like, think about what the Broncos defense has done so far. Like, how many stops did they get? Or, especially like special teams. Don't even get me started on the Jeremy Crawshaw shanks that he had. Luckily, he bounced back later on the game. But how many times did the Broncos defense start on the wrong side of their own 50, and it had nothing to do with what they did? It had everything to do with offense going 3 and out, special teams not coming up to par there. And obviously, the punter for the Raiders almost had an MVP-like performance with his leg, pinning the Broncos inside the 5 a few times. I look at what this defense overcame here on Thursday night, and it's the bright spot. Like, it's the highlight of an 8-2 team right now, and they're fun. And they're on a historic pace, though, gentlemen. I think we definitely got to highlight that. 63 sacks last year in total for this team. They're at 46 right now. They had 6 sacks tonight, and they are the next closest team to them in terms of sacks. The Detroit Lions have 28. That is unbelievable.
That's
right
wild.
here.
Yeah, it's an otherworldly defense. And to answer your question, Nick, I'd probably lean towards Tampa Bay myself. I mean, you're talking about 2 teams that had really stout defenses, right? Like Ray Lewis and company in Baltimore. And I look at Tampa Bay, right? That was John Lynch, Rondé Barber, Warren Sapp up front.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there were some players on that team. And, that's that was Gruden, and I'm forgetting Brian Billick, right? The head Brian Billick, I believe, was the head coach for Baltimore back then as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to get your opinion, Nick.
Well, for me, I'm leaning more towards Tampa Bay because I'll say that Brad Johnson had a little more skill set than Trent Dilfer. Now, that Baltimore team also had special teams as well. That's something that the Broncos really don't have right now. And once again, my father used to say, you never miss the water till the well runs dry. And I've always felt as though thus far this season, even last season, Marvin Mims was underappreciated. I bet you appreciate him now, right?
Yep.
Because the numbers and him setting the field from a special team standpoint, it's not there. But also, I got another question for you guys because I heard this a lot. And I hadn't even had a conversation with my wife because, yes, was it windy at the game tonight? Yes, it was. But the Crawshaw issues with the punt were blamed on the wind, right? The wind.
No.
I was like, no, telling my wife, no. Let me show you the video so it is not the damn wind.
You should have seen the
not
text
at all.
message my wife sent me. She sent me a text. She says, "Is Crawshaw sick?" And he's Australian. She goes, "Is he down under?" I was like, "Oh, it's clever." She pulled the clever one out there. I was like, "All right, hey, that was a good." Like, I was on one in the press box today. I was.
Oh, you were.
Cody, euphemisms left and right. We got to mic myself up there in the press box sometime. I feel like I was just on one.
Yeah, you got to come sit with us during one of these home games, Nick, because it's free entertainment sitting next to this guy with his one-liners and whatnot.
Out, man. I don't want to get kicked out of the press box because there's a certain level of decorum you're supposed to have in the press box. But if it's to the magnitude of you saying what Cody behaved like today, we're all getting kicked out.
Yeah, and it's all in good fun, right? At the end of the day, it's all in good fun. And look, man, at the end of the day, it's a win, right? And it's I feel like we're going to talk about the defense here in the next segment, so we'll be pretty positive there. But when it comes to the offense, there is a lot to unpack and just a lot of questions that need answers right now. And real quick, to go back to the win dynamic, I was sitting there in Evan Ingram's scrum after the game, and he was asked about that, and he essentially kind of shrugged it off. It was like, no, like that did not really factor into the way that this game played out for the Broncos on offense. And frankly, it's a team offensively that's still searching for their identity. Like, I think they have a guy in J.K. Dobbins that, is a lead back type of guy. He's been one of the better running backs in the league, right? You feel okay about their wide receiving core, but a lot of it comes down to Bo Nix. And frankly, even more so, I think it comes down to the play calling, Cody.
Nick, how many carries did J.K. Dobbins have in the first half?
He had 4 carries for 24 yards, and his longest was about 13 yards. Now, here's what's interesting about these particular numbers. because I had to go back and check. I was like, wait a minute. It was almost like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Like, I've seen this before, right? So in the Houston, Texas game, guess what it was at halftime? 4 carries, 24 yards. His longest was 13 yards.
Crazy.
And I started telling myself, prepping myself, okay, Nick, based on these numbers, here's a couple of things we know. Sean's not running the ball as much as he should, but also wait to the fourth quarter, right? That's when the other shoe is going to drop, but the other shoe never dropped. So I don't get it.
They're not running with anybody else. Like RJ's getting what, maybe 4 carries in a game, or I think it was 4 carries for 9 yards. And like, to me, the recipe is there for this offense. It's run the football. It's JK's got it going. It's 3rd and 1. Don't even get me started on the 3rd and 1 call where it's like the run game was working. You're rattling off a nice little drive, and then you throw it to Cortland Sutton. You want to design a little trick play where he's got to go 5 yards backwards, gets tackled. I was sitting there. I'm like, this is exactly the like. You see when Bo's frustrated. This is what I think everybody means when Sean Payton just tries to get too cute sometimes. Like, we can all admit at times, Sean, I think he's a great play designer, but people need to start being honest about Sean Payton as a play caller, and that I don't know if he's consistently got it enough. I think he's trying to show off too much. He doesn't need to. It is there. Run the ball.
Yeah, and he's playing with his food. Like, that's just kind of what's happening with this Broncos offense is they're getting a little cute.
It almost got
we got to hit him. Yeah, we gotta hit a break here real quick, and I want to throw this out there because we can revisit it later in the show. If this was Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, even if they won this game, what's the conversation like?
We've seen
it. Yeah, we've seen it, right? So stew on that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, folks. We're gonna hit a quick break. We'll come back and continue along with the conversation, but let's reset. Let's get positive. Let's talk about this dynamic Denver Broncos defense because they have got some dogs on that defense, and they are carrying the weight, carrying the boats as the Broncos win their 7th straight game, taking down the Las Vegas Raiders 10-7 on Thursday Night Football. All that and more when we come back right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, y'all, real quick, let me tell you about the fine folks over at Mizzen and Main. You're going to want to listen up to this because you know the saying, look good, feel good. The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main, guys. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture-wicking, wrinkle-resistant, and machine washable. No ironing, no dry cleaning whatsoever, guys. I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out to the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off of your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main at stores in select states. Again, that code one more time, folks, is LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off your first purchase. You always got to up the wardrobe game, and our friends over at Mizzen and Main are here for you. So be sure to check them out and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back in. Ooh, let me pull this down. Welcome on back in to your Locked On Broncos postcast, Aniello Piro, or not postcast, squad show.
My
get that
goodness.
It is 12:16 in the morning, brother. It
I
is
know.
12:16 in the morning, and I got to get up early tomorrow to go do more stuff. Yeah, it never ends. Reset, 3, 2, 1. Welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos squad show. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, and Nick Ferguson here breaking down the Denver Broncos' ugly 10-7 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll get back to Bo Nix in the offense and Sean Payton and whatnot. But guys, you know, Cody, you kind of alluded to it in the last segment, the sack machine that is this Denver Broncos defense, and really just what a complete unit it is. And they hold the Raiders, who I understand are not the cream of the crop in the NFL right now. They hold them to 7 points. That's without Pat Surtain, the reigning defensive player of the year. So a lot of good takeaways from this Broncos defense tonight, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're carrying the boats, they're carrying the buckets of water, and at some point it gets a little too heavy, right? And you have to hope that it doesn't collapse at the wrong time. Like there's going to be, I feel like in the second half schedule, it could even come next week. The Broncos defense could have a game where maybe, they give up a couple of plays or they may miss here or there. I don't think, regardless of how this season goes, look, there's been so much conversation about Sean Payton this, Sean Payton that, Bo Nix in the offense, Vance Joseph and this defense. The defense has gotten a lot of praise. Vance Joseph hasn't been talked about enough. Like if I'm Sean Payton, after this game, I'm sitting there, I'm thanking my lucky stars that Vance Joseph was calling the defense, because this defense has, as I mentioned, they're performing at a historic pace. When you talk about getting after the quarterback and you're getting pass rush in waves, it's not just one guy. You have 4, 5, 6 different guys getting into the mix. And Nick, I know you're going to appreciate this being the former safety. Talanoa Hufanga, that man plays with his hair on fire. That sack that he had coming off a blitz on 4th and 5, that was game-changing here, because this could have gotten out of hand for the Broncos if he didn't get home on that play there. Everyone is contributing. It's like, Oprah, you get a sack, you get a sack, you get a sack. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is fun to watch. And I have to admit, guys, full transparency, I'm a little jealous. And the reason I'm jealous because in my playing days, they never let me blitz. I was always in the center field. They always let John Lynch blitz. So watching Hufanga come around the edge, I mean, I'm just really envious of how he's being utilized in the defense. And the way that I look at it is every defense needs someone who's considered to be an eraser. And to me, he is an eraser for the Denver Broncos. And what I mean by that is that you can line him up anywhere on the field, and he's gonna take plays away. Obviously, when you play him closer to the line of scrimmage, that allows him to work similar to a guy that he's looked up to, a guy who I've played against, Troy Polamalu. So it's great to have Hufanga on this team. But once again, man, you're really pressing your defense, putting them in those tough situations where field position is a big issue. And now you're asking them to stand tall and either shut the other team out, no points at all, or hold them to a field goal. At some point, the dam is going to break. And there are other people out there, both locally and nationally, waiting to pounce on Vance Joseph to say, see, your defense didn't really hold up, when all in all, it wasn't his defense's fault.
Yeah,
Correct.
And it's interesting that you bring up Troy Polamalu. I believe it was in his first press conference as a member of the Broncos. Like Hufanga kind of brought him up. Maybe it was unprompted or maybe somewhat prompted, but like that's a guy that he tries to model his game after. And look, we know the days of the hard-hitting safety, as you were, back in the day, and the Troy Polomalus and the John Lynches of the world. Like that's no longer a thing. It kind of died with Kareem Jackson. Like he was like the last guy that I felt like played that style of football, right? But like Talanoa Hufanga is the closest to that in the modern day NFL with the new rules and the regulations and whatnot. And I think it was like on the first drive of the game, Cody, I turned to you and I'm like, he's making an impact right away. Yeah. And, there was a handful of different signings the Broncos made this offseason, right? Evan Ingram, maybe not as good as we expected. Drake Greenlaw, the rest is still unwritten, needs to play more games. But Talanoa Hufanga has been a 10 out of 10 home run signing for this Denver Broncos team, Cody.
Yeah, no, he has. I mean, he brings the energy too. And the way that he plays, you wouldn't think he's as nice of a guy as he is. He's one of the nicest dudes I think I've ever been around. But he's got this demeanor to him. He just flips a switch when he's on the football field. I mean, you talk about a guy who I think is so much responsible to, like, we know Alex Singleton's got the green dot, right? But Hufanga is the one guy I'm watching before every snap, and he's communicating with the secondary and the linebackers. He's making sure that guys are lined up. The way that this Broncos defense plays, like, and people are like, oh, without Pat Surtain, you can't do certain things defensively. They honestly haven't changed much of their approach. They just don't have one guy following one guy anymore. They're just saying, hey, you know what? We're going to play our style. We're going to trust our corners on the outside here. They aren't changing their defense. They are just pretty much adapting to like where they're at and saying, hey, you know what? This is how we can adjust. We're not going to rob Paul to pay Peter. We're going to go out there and we're going to collect. Like that's exactly what they're doing. And Hufanga, I think, is the guy behind all of it. The Energizer Bunny, you name it. He has been great.
Well, there's another unsung hero that isn't really really spoke about. And I know we're talking about the defense, and most of the people, both nationally and locally, don't really talk about Vance Joseph in the defense. But let's not forget Zach Allen. and the work that he's done, because I feel this way. You got two great edge rushers in Jonathan Cooper and Nick Bonito. The thing that makes their life really easy is getting that interior pocket presence and that push from Zach Allen, because he's forcing everything else outside. He could beat single one-on-one. He could beat double team, as he showed last week with the Houston Texans. But that's another guy that needs to have us talking about him more, because he's not getting all the sacks, but he's contributing to sacks for everyone else.
Yeah, I think it's well said. I mean, he's a guy with the sack tonight, as you alluded to, the tackling, he's in every single play. And I think what's most impressive to me, and I understand it's the Raiders, but this has been a consistent theme for a majority of the season. When the Broncos get an opposing offense on third down, I mean, what is the rate of getting a sack on those plays? Like tonight, it felt like it was automatic. It was like the Raiders were in a third down and Geno Smith was running for his life out there. I mean, their ability to pressure the quarterback in those key moments, Cody, is absolutely unbelievable. And that is a championship quality that this defense possesses.
Well, and it's not just like it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. They're just pinning their ears back. It's also like 3rd and 2. They're disrupting. Zach Allen, I would say consistently, and JFM, John Franklin Myers, is having a fantastic year. I think they're going to find a way to pay him in the offseason. They're going to find a way. That Russell Wilson dead money is going to be off the books. They're going to find a way to keep JFM in the mix, I feel like. But Zach Allen, as Nick was talking about, his get off is unbelievable. Like for a guy of his size, he's able to shoot through and make a move, beat a guard inside. And you know what happens? The quickest threat to any offensive operation is interior penetration inside the A and the B gap. That can disrupt your pocket flow. That can obviously disrupt your run lanes, and it allows guys to run free. Like what he's doing right there is creating more one-on-one opportunities for guys on the outside or for a JFM, or if he's getting double teamed. Now Zach Allen's winning his one-on-ones. Like it is very synergetic, this defense and how they play off one another. I mean, it's almost like they feed off of one another. It's not the amoeba look, right? Because Brian Flores runs that in Minnesota. But the way that this defense attacks, it is kind of like an amoeba in a sense, the way that they're just going after anything that is in their way. They're trying to destroy that. That, to me, they have dogs at every level of the field. D-line, linebacker, secondary. They have elite level players there. And for them to do it without Pat Surtain is going to be big. How are they going to do it this week against Kansas City? That's going to be the big test.
Yeah, and while we're on the defense, I agree with you completely, Cody. But one guy that I think needs some praise, and I'll tell you what, if this Broncos offense can't go in there in the red zone, I might throw Dondre Tillman out there in the backfield and let him just go out there and run. Because you saw him today on that pick six, or not a pick six, but that interception. He was trying to get in the end zone, man. And Dondre Tillman's, he's a guy that's going to fly under the radar, right? Because his name's not Benito or Allen or JFM. But he's had a really good couple of game stretch here for the Denver Broncos. I believe now his 2nd interception of the season. Nice to see the big boy run, Nick.
Well, you know what? Here's the one thing that I'm thinking about now that you bring it up. I mean, that's 2 interceptions on the season, which I guess probably lays to rest this whole concept that defensive players can't catch the ball. I mean, he's showing as though he can catch the ball. And we know that the Broncos have been struggling with position at tight end and finding a guy who could be an inline blocker, someone who can actually catch the ball. Well, with his hands being what they are, I mean, could we see coming out of the bye week, maybe he comes in the jumbo package instead of Garrett Bowles trying to haul in a catch in the end zone? Maybe he's the guy. Maybe you throw the ball to him.
He was like a freight train running down the tracks, dude. When he got that interception, I mean, that was a spectacle to watch, Cody.
He did get leveled on the return at the end. That tight end is like, I mean, those are scary. I mean, Nick, I've picked off passes. You've picked off passes. When you're returning one, the number one thing is like, wait, I'm not going to get blown up from just somewhere out of nowhere, right? Those offensive players get mad that their quarterback throws a pick. They're going to try to take a shot on you. Tillman, here's the crazy thing. Tillman leads the team in interceptions right now, which is nuts to think about.
That is wow. But here's the thing when it comes to interception. This is what I was always told, and this is what I always did. And I think now I'm thinking back on it, it might have hurt me as far as yards, but also no one ever came and cleaned me up. Soon as you get the ball, the idea was run to the nearest sideline. Tillman is running and staying in between the hashes. I'm just like, no, big dog, get your big butt to the sideline just in case you fumble. You want to fumble out of bounds. But to his credit, man, 2 interceptions to lead the team. He's doing a great job.
I see what you did there. That was good advice because it helped out your boy Champ Bailey on that 99-yard
I
interception.
have
You
no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
In the show, they never blitzed you. The one time they blitzed you, you pressured Tom Brady. Champ Bailey almost took it 100 yards for 6. But the sideline, thank goodness he was on the sideline because that advice, it paid off.
There you go. See, now you get it. It comes full circle.
Yep. No, 100%. No, and I think at the end of the day, to kind of put a bow on the defensive aspect of it, man, I mean, they're doing their part, right? And Cody, as you kind of alluded to, at some point, this frustration may boil over just because of how good the duality between the defense versus the offense. And the offense has to do their part. And when we come back on the other side, let's unpack what the heck is wrong with this Denver Broncos offense, because they're 8-2, but they don't feel 8-2. And all of that, not just a little bit, all of it, I think, is because of this Denver Broncos offense. So we'll hit a quick break. We'll come back and continue along with the conversation right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Back in a moment, folks. All right, y'all. Let me tell you about the fine folks over at Gametime, because NFL season is here. It's back. And honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest. Getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It is frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Guys, I pulled up the Gametime app, and in just a couple of taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games for as low as $100. The Nuggets play tomorrow against the Warriors. They play the Pacers on Saturday. So if you're a hoop head, be sure to check out our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go and download Gametime today. I always like to say this when I do the Gametime reads, guys. I am an active Gametime subscriber, listener, user, all that good stuff. I actually used it for the first time to take my parents to see Billy Joel a couple of summers ago at Coors Field. I use it for Nuggets tickets, Avalanche tickets, whatever game or sporting event I'm trying to attend, concerts as well. Gametime is the place to go. So use that code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase, and let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. Aniello Piro, Cody, Roark, Nick Ferguson. Hope everyone is doing well out there as we move into Friday morning after the Denver Broncos 10-7 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Do us a favor, folks. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Really helps us out here on the channel. Okay, we did the good. Denver Broncos defense, really good. Denver Broncos offense, not so much. Nick, I want to start with you because you were talking about how this should be a game that the Broncos offense should be able to come out and flex on the Raiders a little bit. Obviously, they did not do that. So what's kind of your initial analysis of what happened with the Denver Broncos on offense today?
Well, it would seem like it was a lack of energy. I know someone would kind of look at the situation and say, well, it is a short week. It is Thursday night football, but here's the difference. The Broncos gained 1 day of extra practice time because the Raiders had to travel. So for me, the Broncos failed to come out and assert themselves and really show on Thursday night football the Kansas City Chiefs. Not to look forward, but you wanted to make sure you show the Kansas City Chiefs what you're coming into. But the Kansas City Chiefs are thinking like, well, I mean, that's nothing. We can steamroll that. But offensively, man, no energy. It just seemed to lack cohesion. I mean, the receivers were dropping balls, and there were times where when Bo got outside the pocket and he's just launching the ball, right? And I don't know if it's one of these playground things where he's saying, okay, well, Troy Franklin and I used to do these same things back at Oregon and thinking that's going to happen, but he's not setting his feet. He's not creating balance with his legs, and he's just throwing the ball down the field. Now, I'll say this about the young quarterback. Bo Nix is one of the better quarterbacks, in my opinion, getting outside the pocket, making those throws. But at the same time, he has to set his feet. And he reminds me a little of Jake Plummer when he gets out of the pocket, but Jake was set his feet. Now, Jake didn't have as strong of an arm as Bo Nix had, but Bo, I mean, when you think about Jake was more accurate with his throws. So it's going to be going back to the basics for Bo Nix. And I hate to say this because now you're bringing up the possibility of a sophomore slump.
And that was something that like Sean like refused to acknowledge, right? Like in training camp and all that kind of stuff. And like I was one of those guys that was like cautiously optimistic about the Broncos this season. Like I had them at 10-7, and I understand that they're going to eclipse that number. They're going to probably win, 11, 12 games this season if all goes well. But they're playing like a 10-7 team. They're not playing like a team that's 8-2 or a team that can win 12 or 13 games right now. They're maybe the luckiest team in the NFL. You think of that win against the Jets. You think about the comeback against the Giants. CJ Stroud going out last week, right? Like the Broncos are getting a lot of breaks right now and hitting a lot of green lights. And that's where I think this game against Kansas City is just going to be the tail of the Broncos season. Like I really will put a lot of stock into how that game plays out because the Broncos are going to be at home. You get this mini bye this week. And if the offense can't come out, and here's the one thing as well, and Cody, I want to get your opinion on this. It seems like the Broncos at times play up or down to the level of their competition. Tonight, they played down to the Raiders. I'm curious to see if they can get up for a team like Kansas City and play much better on offense.
I think the number one thing, too, is what you have to do. And look, people are talking about a mini bye week. You really don't. I mean, you get tomorrow in, you're going to come in and get treatment. You're going to watch the tape collectively with your coaching staff. Then you're going to get Saturday off. You're going to get Sunday off. You're going to get Monday off. And then you're back on Tuesday, more than likely. So for me, you don't really get a mini bye, but you need to figure out, like, take a couple of days, get away from the whole situation. I thought Mike McGlinchey said it best in the locker room. He said, it feels like at times that we're seeing ghosts. And it's like, it might be good for us to get back, to take a step back, remove ourselves from the situation for a couple of days, and then come back to it, he says, because when you're so close to it, you might not see things, that way. And look, I will say, like, and I'm not making an excuse. The Broncos have played a lot of games in the last handful of the last 20 something days, the amount of games, the amount of mileage they've done it's a lot. But you know what? I think that they've handled it well, certainly with the record that they have right now. To me, Bo's confidence has to find a way to be reset at this point, because what I noticed and what I saw here on Thursday night, and I certainly saw it last week at times against Houston, it just seems like there's this disconnect in confidence between what Bo wants to do and what Sean wants to do. And people were saying this. I got to go back and watch the game broadcast. I mean, we don't get that up in the press box. We don't get audio. But people were telling me that there was like a hot mic that was caught where Bo sounded like he was frustrated with all the personnel that Sean was bringing in, as if like it was impacting the flow and the rhythm. I've noticed this just him coming off the sideline at times. I've noticed this since week 1 against Tennessee. This is a growing trend here into week 10. And look, people are like, well, hey, it's an AFC West game. Nick, do you subscribe to that line of thinking? Just because I look at this and say, it's not just an AFC West game why this is the case. We are 10 weeks into the regular season, and the trend has been the same. It hasn't changed. It's been the same. To me, that's the concern.
Yeah, and I hear it a lot, and I'm sick and tired of it, because I know some Broncos fans would say, well, hey, the team won. Why are you guys being Debbie Downers? But for me, you can't unsee what you've seen based on football itself. I mean, I'm hearing that, well, the team is young. They're still getting into their groove. Defense normally gels quicker than offense. I'm like, yeah, man, that's true for damn training camp. Not at this stage of the season. We should see a little more fluidity to the offense. And the whole idea with, Bo, and I'm glad you brought it up, there is a certain level of frustration that's taking place between Bo and Sean Payton, because you can see Bo wants to do a lot more things than what he's doing now. And he wants to go quick. He wants to go fast. I mean, maybe even so that Sean Payton needs to implement maybe a series of plays and just call it damn Ricky Bobby. Right? Let's just call it Ricky Bobby. I want to go fast, right? But Sean is somehow holding him back, wanting to kind of keep him like in this carousel, because, I mean, we are the Denver Broncos. And when you have a bucking Bronco, you got to let him run. You got to let him run, fellas. And right now, Sean is not allowing him to run and get out to do the things that he actually wants to do. So unless you're going to tell me Sean is going to let loose of the reins and let this young buck go, then the Broncos are going to face the same thing against Kansas City in 10 days.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, right? Because like here, I agree with you about like the training camp aspect of it. Like I'll give the Broncos a break for week 1 against Tennessee, right? A 20-12 win. Give them a break. Week 1, first live game action in a long time for the starters. Okay. But like, this is a trend right now for the Broncos. And like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, how the heck did how did the Giants blow that game a few weeks ago? Like, how did the Broncos put up 33 points in the fourth quarter? Like, I'm trying to process that still, because just like the recent sample size, I mean, the 10 points tonight, the 18 points against Houston. I know they have a good defense, right? Like, and Dallas's defense can't stop a runny nose right now. 13 points against the Jets, right? 21 points against the Eagles. I mean, the only game where the Broncos offense has looked quote unquote dominant or championship level was that game against the Cowboys, who have the worst defense in the league. And frankly, it's not close. And so this is a trend that we've noticed with this Denver Broncos offense. And frankly, I agree with you, Cody. I do think a couple of days to kind of step back and reevaluate. And you mentioned, reset Bo's confidence. I don't know what there is to reset, because I'm not sure Bo Nix has had confidence all year.
No, he hasn't. He's got to figure out, a way to feel like himself again, I would say, because like, I would even say this too, like mechanic wise, because Bo doesn't look comfortable or confident out there. Bo's mechanics have also taken a little bit of a step back from footwork. I would even notice simple things like his interception that he threw last week against Houston. You look at arm angle. There was someone on Twitter that sent me, a side-by-side clip, and it was great. Bo's release seems a little tighter inside versus him just winding up and just chucking it downfield. Like last year, he was more accurate as a downfield passer than he has been this year. So all these things are married together, right? And it's not necessarily working out, because when he has pressure or when he feels like there's pressure, there's times where he seemed panicky. And when he seems panicky, he's not going to set his feet. Sometimes he runs up into a phantom pocket and phantom pressure and runs himself into a sack. Then there's times where you talk about his release. It's like, wait, where's he going with that football? The accuracy isn't there. Bo is not Bo, the guy that we saw last year. And I think so much of it has to do with, obviously, the stuff that Sean Payton has wanted to unleash a little bit. But here's also another thing. I want you guys to tell me if I'm wrong. The Broncos are using a lot of Tyler Bidet. I know fans are very passionate about this. Do they ever hand the ball off to Tyler Bidet? No. So when you're the defensive coordinator, you're looking at what personnel's coming in. Oh, number 28's in. You automatically know it's a passing down. That is on coaching. Sean, at that situation, has to help Bo out by not saying, hey, we're just going to tip our hand. 28's in. We know it's a pass play.
Yeah, and like these wacky, like we talked about that Cortland Sutton play on the third down. Like, what are we doing here? They ran a pass play to the fullback, and I believe he caught the pass, but it's like, what are we doing with this? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and I know there's been some comments about like, oh, I'd feel so much better if the Broncos went out and got a veteran wide receiver at the trade deadline. Like, I still stand on it. I don't think it's making a difference, frankly, because I'm looking at the box score tonight. I mean, Pat Bryant was your leading receiver with 1 catch for 43 yards on 2 targets. Trey Franklin led the team in targets with 9. Okay, so you give that a break. Cortland Sutton had 4 targets tonight, 3 receptions on 24 yards. I mean, Evan Ingram had 2 catches for 12 yards. Like, it's not a matter of a lack of playmakers. I think it's just like, I don't know what the objective of this Broncos offense is. Like, I don't know if they're just trying to set up these jackpot plays consistently and try to beat teams that way, but they are not spreading the sugar right now, Nick. And it's just, I don't think it's a matter of personnel. I think it's more so a matter of play calling.
Yeah, it is a matter of play calling. I mean, this is not something new, guys, that we're seeing for the first time. We've seen this all season long, even dating back to the Titans game. Ball distribution is somewhat of a big issue. And I'm glad you brought up, Bo climbing in the pocket. There was a play where Evan Ingram was wide open and Bo climbed in the pocket too tight and he missed him. He threw the ball a little short. So pocket awareness seems to be somewhat of an issue for Bo. And it just seems as though he is uncomfortable in the pocket. And I know one would say, well, why is that the case, considering that when you look at the Broncos defense, they're sacking quarterbacks. The offense, they're not giving up that many sacks. So why would the quarterback have happy feet? Because he still can feel that pressure. And it's his mobility and the ability to kind of have a quick release. That's why the Broncos haven't sustained as many sacks. And I don't want to take anything away from the offensive line, but at the same time, I mean, we got to keep it a buck. What Bo is doing in the pocket is taking the pressure off of the offensive line. And some of those times where he's throwing those error passes and those deep shots down the field, things open up where he can just run for the first down. But I think in his head, not just in his head, but on his shoulder, He has Sean Payton's voice on his shoulder saying, don't run, Bo. This is going to break clear. When it clears, throw the ball. So he's waiting. The pocket starts to collapse. What do I do? Do I run? Do I throw? My natural instinct tells me to run, but my head coach is telling me, stay in the pocket. Really quickly, guys, this is a similar situation that Russell Wilson had when he was a member of the Denver Broncos. Whether I run, whether I pass it, because his natural instinct told him to run, but that's not what the head coach, offensive coordinator wants him to do. At some point, once again, Bo's got to make a decision, because when he's on the field, he's on the freaking field. I mean, Sean Payton's on the side with the play sheet in his hand. Make the plays on the field, get to the sideline, discuss them with Sean, and then say, Coach, this is what I'm faced with. What do you want me to do? I know what you call the play in, what you want me to do, but I need to go in and I need to make some plays and get other guys involved.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, I didn't cover the Saints when Sean Payton was there with Drew Brees, but it seemed like that was very much a give and take type of relationship. And right now, the Bo Nick Sean Payton dynamic seems like Bo, is obviously the quarterback, the playmaker, and in this sense, the student, right? And it's like Sean Payton is like that strict teacher you had in high school that, like, you knew you had to sit up in your chair. You knew you knew you had to get there on time. You didn't want to make him mad because he'll, give you detention or whatever it might be. It seems like Bo is playing out of fear of making mistakes as opposed to playing with confidence and an ability to kind of take some shots and be an impactful player. Looks like he's playing out of fear, Cody.
Yeah, and look, so much of that when you think too much on the field, you're going to make mistakes. And look, there's things that Bo himself, look, it's not all just on, like I said earlier, there's dirt on the hands of everybody. On Sean, there's certainly dirt on the hands of Bo Nix here. And you look at this team, it's like, all right, what have we done to position this team, to be in a better spot? J.K. Dobbins has been kind of a saving grace to this offense a little bit, just because you need something to happen. Okay, J.K. is just going to stay patient. He's going to find a way to milk the clock. I mean, really, in this game, to end it, it was J.K. Dobbins coming up with those big plays. Yes, Troy Franklin had the catch on 3rd and 1 where I was in the press box. I said, hey, look, they ran on 1st and 2nd down. Watch. I was like, 3rd and 1. They're going to do play action. Sure enough, they do play action. Hit Troy underneath. I just think that, for Bo, we also have to approach the conversation about saying, like, he's not a finished product. But when you're molding, if you have ever worked with clay, if you're molding clay, if you're trying to mold it into something, you have to be careful with how you do certain things, because what we're seeing from Bo, from what I think we're just seeing on the field, and I'm curious how fans and how you guys think about this, him losing confidence, I think, is the one thing that concerns me the most, because that's not necessarily just a him thing. I think I don't have confidence in my head coach. And certainly it doesn't make me feel good, because what have we heard Sean say from the onset when they moved on from Russell Wilson? We need to be able to win from within the pocket in today's NFL. All right, well, maybe you've drilled that into his head too much. He's overthinking that, where at times there is a clean pocket, he senses pressure, and maybe he runs. Like, I think he's overthinking things, and therefore you're seeing Bo, the on-field product of him is I think a direct reflection of that exact thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's hit the final break real quick. Save your thoughts, Nick. I want to get your opinion on that. I have some as well. Let me hit this quick break. When we come back, we'll kind of put a bow on the show. No pun intended there. As we talk about Bo Nix's offense, let's also talk about the special teams a little bit, as that was a rough night at the office, and that's been a major theme this season, Darren Rizzi and company. So we'll hit a quick break. We'll come back, do just that right here on your Locked On Broncos Squad Show. All right, you guys, where's my thing? Here it is. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks, because this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make a lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates. That includes California, Texas, and Georgia, guys. There's awesome features on PrizePicks. The new stacks feature in particular is an absolute game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points. This is Steph Curry for points, 3-point shots, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. That is awesome, guys. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So if you like the NFL, you like the NBA, Nuggets playing a couple of games on Friday and Saturday, check out our friends over at PrizePicks. Plenty of NFL action this weekend as well. PrizePicks has you covered. Check them out. Use that code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play $5. And let them know that Locked On Broncos sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Broncos squad show. Aniello Piro, Cody Roark, Nick Ferguson. Appreciate all of y'all rocking with us as it's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning here in the Mile High City. I know there's probably some East Coasters out there. I know there's some West Coasters out there. It is late, and we appreciate you guys staying up with us to break down this Denver Broncos win over the Las Vegas Raiders, 10-7. But Cody, you made a ton of good points before the commercial break out there regarding Bo Nix. And I agree with a lot of them. Just, not playing with confidence, playing not to lose, all the traits that you don't want to see from Bo Nix right now. And I think the other thing, Nick, that's worth saying is it doesn't look like Bo Nix has gotten any better in year two. If anything, it looks like he's taken maybe a little step back.
Well, I know it definitely looks that way, and the sophomore jinx is a real thing because other teams adjust to what you're doing. But I'll go back to this. It's not that Bo cannot play this game. I don't think the guy is a bust. It's just the fact of both he and Sean Payton getting on the same page, allowing Bo to just go out there and be who he is. I mean, time and time again, we will look at this situation and evaluate and compare Bo to another quarterback that Sean Payton had was Drew Brees. And the idea is that Bo is not Drew Brees. I mean, his skill set is so much on a higher level. And that's not to diminish, Drew Brees because he's an extraordinary quarterback. I know I played against him, but at these early stages in Bo's career, it's about building your offense to fit his skill set. That is the most important thing for any play caller. It doesn't make a difference how smart you think that you are. No one really cares if your quarterback is struggling. Let's just say maybe the calls are too long and it's disrupting his process of being able to get to the line of scrimmage, assess the defense, and go from there. And if that's the case, you shorten the call. I mean, even Peyton Manning has had, 1 or 2 word calls to get guys into somewhat an offensive rhythm. To me, if Sean was able to do that, was willing, maybe a better way to phrase that, was willing to do that, we'll see more, production from Bo Nix in the offense.
Yeah, and I thought J.K. Dobbins was really candid tonight, Cody. In his kind of comments about we're close. I don't know if I believe that just because, I just haven't really seen it from this Broncos offense. But I thought J.K. tonight was really candid and kind of reiterating that as well, Cody.
They could be close if they decided to stick with the run at times. Look, the Broncos have a top 5 rushing offense right now when you look at the numbers. But I think if anyone's watching the games, it's like, all right, this is usually coming late in the game. It's not coming in the first half. Like, ideally, you want to make your mark in the first half where it's like, hey, we got the run game going. We're in control. For as much as the Broncos defer to the second half, they try to just air it out a little too much. But then again, I was just having a conversation with Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints. He's been covering the New Orleans Saints for a long, long time. When Sean was in New Orleans, what stands out to me, and I think we all forget it because it's been so long ago, when Drew Brees was still playing and they had Taysom Hill on the roster, Drew Brees would get the offense past the 50-yard line, and then all of a sudden, Sean would pull Drew out, in would come Taysom when you try to get into the red zone area, and at times it impacted them. That, I think, is also a dynamic here. Look, the Broncos certainly aren't doing that. They don't have anyone that they're doing that with Bo with specifically, but it's like, all right, we've seen that Sean at times can be very stubborn as a play caller and want to just say, hey, look what I can do here. Look at this. Look at this design. Great designer, but the execution factor certainly isn't there. You want to know the most sobering statistic from tonight's game, gentlemen? It's the fact that, it's for both teams too. The Broncos had 10 first downs offensively. So did the Raiders. Denver had 11 penalties. They had more penalties than they had first downs in this game. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. Like that right there, this was, I will say this, like, and this isn't just hyperbole. This was the worst offensive performance I've seen from this Broncos team in a handful of years. And we've seen a lot of bad offensive games. This one was one of the top ones that we've seen.
Yeah. And let's just hope that they correct it. Right. And let's hope that this mini bye week is an opportunity for them to kind of hit that reset button, take a step back, reevaluate some things, and get back after it against the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll be back on Tuesday as well. We'll really kind of dive into that matchup against Kansas City on Tuesday. So this is more straight reaction to the game that we just saw. But one thing I do want to touch on before we get out of here is special teams. I mean, rough night at the office for Jeremy Crawshaw. Will Lutz, up and down there at one point. Or no, did Will Lutz miss the field goal or did the Raiders miss the field goal?
He missed a 59-yarder.
Yeah, 59-yarder. The Raiders missed one as well.
But that one, I don't know. Like in hindsight, do you want to kick that 50? It was like 5 yards short. Well,
Sean admitted that in hindsight, he probably wouldn't have kicked that field goal just with the dynamics with the wind, which we all agree wasn't a huge factor in the overall game, but certainly is going to factor into your kicking game. And you give the Raiders that short field position back in that sense too. But Darren Rizzi's been the subject of a lot of criticism this year. I mean, the leverage call against Indianapolis, Trent Sherfield's had a couple interesting, blocking dynamics. Like the special teams have not been as clean as they should be, Nick.
No, it really hasn't. And one can say, well, is it unfair to totally criticize Darren Rizzi? I would agree. It's a little unfair because it's coach and players simultaneously. But when your unit is being the unit opposite the offense that's not pulling their fair share of the weight, everyone's going to start pointing their fingers at you. And Sean Payton said earlier this week, well, they're getting great coaching from the special team side. So it is not the coaching. It is the players. It's the players not performing and doing their part of it. I can tell you once again, guys, I have one of, if not the best special teams coach to ever coach the position in Mike Westhoff. It goes down to what you're willing to tolerate. And Mike Westhoff, and I can tell you personally, because I was one of those players who was constantly in his crosshairs, he has a really short fuse for players making mistakes. Now, I don't know Darren Rizzi personally, but maybe he needs to pull a little of the Mike Westhoff and threaten guys' jobs to get them to go out there and perform. Because guess what? The Crawshaw, fumbles or whatever you want to call them, kerfuffles with the punt, it wasn't the win and it wasn't Darren Rizzi. Now, the Broncos are going to have to fix that part of it, but it goes back to what they did not do during training camp, bringing in someone else to compete with Crawshaw. So now they're at the crossroads right now where they got to live and die with the decisions that they made. But I believe as though it is part coach and part player.
I agree. And remember, he had a rough preseason, did Jeremy Crawshaw, right? And it's like that. We kind of forget about that because he's been fine for the most part in the regular season, but it reared its ugly head.
It's been pretty great the regular season outside of today.
Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. I mean, this is about as negative as I think we could possibly be after a win. I mean, they won.
Negative.
Wait. Let's
critical.
Perspective. It's not the fact that we're being negative. Now, some fans may perceive it as being negative because we're telling a truth. We're telling a truth that they don't want to acknowledge because the idea is that the team hasn't had this many wins in a row in the wild. The team hasn't had this type of success. So it's like, well, why are you guys going to rain on our parade? It's like, I don't want to rain on your parade, but I want to be realistic about what it is that we are seeing. And if someone is telling you this 8-2 team is playing as their record would proclaim, then they're lying to you, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to believe us or your lying eyes? Which one?
Yes. Right.
And eight wins is great, but once again, I said, it's cosmetic. There are a lot of warts, and you got to get the warts removed. Like I said, that you can see. Never mind. I'm not even going to go with that analogy. It's too late. I was going to say it's like you see a pretty girl, it's like, but I'm married. I'm a married man. I can't say that. But it's like,
Yeah. Let that one go, Cody. Just let it go.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. And I think to kind of close it out is like, you need to be critical, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there in Broncos country that want to act like it's sunshine and rainbows. But that's just not the reality situation right now. They're 8-2. You like that 7-game win streak. You like that.
Yeah.
But if the Broncos want to contend for a championship, there's a lot of things they need to clean up. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. Cody, Nick, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Hey, look, 8 wins is great, but this team has to figure out how to play up to the standard. And that's really just a message at the offense and special teams. This cannot be the trend. And you know what? Maybe they were looking ahead to Kansas City a little bit. Maybe that's the hope. Maybe if we're going to be the optimistic side, like the glass half full in this situation here, maybe it's like, you know what? We're saving our best for Kansas City. You don't want to save your best for just one specific team. You want to put that on tape on a consistent week-to-week basis. Probably Pat, there was going to be a chance that Pat Surtain could have maybe been ready to go. I think that they're going to be smart and wait for him in this situation. But 8-2, lot of room to improve, and they're not playing their best yet, but they can. We just haven't seen it yet.
Well, I'll say this. It comes down to accountability, not excuses. This is the same thing that Bill Parcells would say. And also my former coach, Mike Shanahan, who happened to be at the game tonight watching what was taking place. And I can help but wonder what was going through his head while he was watching it. That's all
I'm saying run the ball, Sean.
Yes, that was kind of my thought process. But all in all, it's about accountability for this offense. They have to take a deep look inside of themselves internally and figure out what the issues are. If not, they're going to waste this great defense and they're going to find themselves in the playoffs, but it's going to be an early exit, and I don't want that for the Broncos.
Yes, I don't want it either. Neither does Cody, but a win is a win. They take care of business tonight against the Las Vegas Raiders. Your final score 10-7. The Broncos improve to 8-2 on the year, 7 straight wins. Love to see that. Let's see if they can wipe the slate clean and get back after it against Kansas City coming up in about 10 days or so. But good stuff tonight, fellas. For Cody Roark, Nick Ferguson, I am Aniello Piro. Really appreciate y'all tapping in with us tonight. Do us that favor on your way out. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Really helps us out here on the channel. But we'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. Enjoy the victory. Talk to you guys then.